day and age. So let me put up a here we go. I can put up a PowerPoint. Are you able to see that?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Okay, let me do some work here and see if we can get it to come up. Sorry, it just takes a little while to
No worries.
navigate. All right. Let's see. Oh, I know. Okay. How's that?
Yes. That's great. It's good.
Good. Well, yesterday we were talking about some expressions of community technology or sustainable technology that can be used in ministry. And of course, for me, the favorite for me is water. And that includes water and sanitation and hygiene, three things. They all work together. And we talked yesterday about the whole situation. And we talked about Water for Life itself and about how it came to be. We are only one of many, many agencies that work in this whole area of water and sanitation and hygiene. And remember, I told you a little bit of the story at the end of this man, Rus Alit, who is one of my spiritual heroes for the work that he's done. And I explained to you too how incredible it was that he found open doors in his own community where he lived, his own village and the villages around. And the key was water and sanitation. And that very strongly Hindu area was open to receiving the gospel through kingdom values because of water and sanitation and hygiene. He is very active still and is doing projects all the time. And his designs are amazing and they are very, very easily done. Things that anyone can do with a little bit of training. And that's the joy of it because it means these things can be taught to people quite easily. And it doesn't take them long before they begin to do them themselves. What he's standing in front of here is a big underground water storage tank that he has built. And here is a hand pump to pump the water out. You'll see the water coming out here. Very simple design, easily made, but very effective. So he has different pieces of equipment that he's designed for rain catchment, that is water coming off, rain coming off of a roof being collected, and then also storing that water into tanks. And he has all these designs for cement tanks, and then pumps of one sort or another. You saw that in the picture, and filters. I showed that picture last time of a big, big sand filter that's able to clean the water so that the water is safe to drink. This was that filter that I mentioned to you last time. And the result of all of this. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes because I never really introduced myself from the beginning. And so I'm going to just take about 2 minutes to show you this is who I am. This is me and my wife, Kian, who is from Korea. She is my second wife. I didn't have two wives at the same time, okay? So this is my second wife, and I had a first wife and 4 children, and then my wife passed away. And I was single for many years, and then met Kian. We fell in love, and we got married about 10 years ago. And she is just a delight. I am very privileged. And this is part of my family. This is not everybody, but this is my son, Andrew, here. This is Steve, also my son. And this is Jennifer, my daughter. I have 4 children. This is 3. This is 3 of them. And there, and this, and this next picture is the son number 2, Jeremy, and his wife, Bonnie, and their 2 children, twins. And so those are our grandkids. And that's Snoop, the dog. And they live in Minnesota. And then this is my Korean family, because when I got married, I also ended up with a Korean family. And these are my, this is my sister-in-law, Young-suk, and my brother-in-law, Jae-hong, and another brother-in-law, Jae-bum. And this is Suk-bong, married to Young-suk. And this is Eun-suk, married to Jae-hong. And this is Hyun-taek. I had to learn these names, and that was very interesting. In the end, I put them on my computer and I rehearsed them until I knew them, because as as an English speaker, I wasn't used to these names, but finally I have them, so I remember them now. And then my mother-in-law, this is my mother-in-law, Oma. They would say that word means mother. And she is 89 years old and a wonderful, wonderful, godly woman. Just an amazing lady. She raised 5 children on her own. And I thought that it's really with a full-time job. So I have a great deal of respect for her. So that's my tribe, the tribe that I'm part of. I'm actually British. I'm not American. I have 2 passports. And I was born and raised in England and became a Christian when I was 10 years old. And then eventually went to college and studied chemistry, and then moved to the United States to do research. I got married, and then began to work at Wheaton College, which is a Christian college in America, for over 20 years. And then I left when I felt the call to go into missions full-time, and I joined YWAM. And from that was when I began to work with water projects and also with science and technology in the University of the Nations. So that's my story. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful life that I've had, and a great privilege to serve God in this way. That's my story. Oh, but here's what I did. I told you that I would tell you more about artificial intelligence, AI. I showed you some of the things that it did to come up with the history of technology and what a Christian biblical Christian worldview is. So I thought, I'm going to ask AI about me. Who am I? So I put into the chat GPT, who is Derek Chignell? And this is the answer it gave me. I'm sorry, but I could not find any notable public figures or scholars with the name Derek Chignell. I felt very disappointed. It's possible, it said, that Derek Chignell is a private individual, or that the name is misspelled. If you have any additional information or context, I can try to assist further. So I was a bit depressed by that. Apparently, I'm not a person, according to artificial intelligence. So I came back and I said, well, I told them a little bit more about myself, and then AI came back and apologized. It said, I apologize for any confusion earlier. This is exactly what it said to me. Derek Chignell is a scientist and a member of Youth with a Mission, a Christian missionary organization. I thought that was quite good. According to the YWAM website, a bio, Derek holds a PhD in materials science and engineering. Well, that's new. I'm not. I'm a PhD in chemistry. And then at the University of Sheffield, I've never been to Sheffield. My university degree is from London and has worked as a researcher in the field of materials science. I have no idea what materials science is. He has also been involved in various YWAM ministries, including teaching in YWAM discipleship training schools. Never done that, actually. I've never taught in a DTS. And leading a YWAM base in Scotland. That's very interesting. Never did that either. So I think the moral of that story is that you can't always trust everything that artificial intelligence gives you. You have to check the facts a little bit. Anyway, it was kind of fun to do that. If you have a chance, you should try and see what kind of answers you get if you ask these kind of questions. Anyway, back to water. One of our projects was in a small island 1,000 miles from anywhere in the middle of the Pacific, and this island was called Fanning Island. It's a beautiful, beautiful island, a very just extremely beautiful, but with a very bad water problem. And so we went there, and I took a team, and we taught the local people how to make water tanks. And also how to put gutters onto roofs so that you could catch the water. And it looked something like this. They built a number of these water tanks like this, catching the water off of the roof of these big buildings. And the water was quite clean. Quite an interesting project. This was the team. And our team, which was Water for Life team, were, I think, 5 people of 5 nations. We had somebody from Canada, a lady from Japan, a lady from New Zealand, a man from America, from the United States, and me, British. So we had 5 nations. It was a very wonderful time we had together. I'll tell you one story here. This lady is from Japan. This man here in the blue shirt came to me one day and said, "You know, I had a dream last night, Derek, and the dream said that I should marry this lady." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I really feel like I should marry her." And I said, "But you already have a wife." And I know, but I would like to have a younger wife as well as my older wife. So I had to talk to him quite strictly and say, "I'm sorry, no, you cannot marry my team member. I'm sorry, that's not available." "Oh, I was sure I heard from God." And I said, "Well, I don't know if you did. I'm telling you, you're not marrying him." So it was an interesting thing. But anyway, it was great because these people all learned how to make these rain catchment tanks and to collect water that was pretty clean instead of water that came from the ground that was quite dirty. So it was quite an interesting project. We've worked in Rwanda, in Africa. This was a tank that we built, an underground water tank with a hand pump designed as you'd expect by Rus Alit. This is getting water off the roof. And this provided water for the school. It's actually a school building. And also we taught them about hygiene, very important. And these are children in the school who were taught how to wash their hands. You know that here's the amazing thing, and that is the statistics show that if a child will wash their hands once a day, it will reduce the amount of illness by 30%. One hand washing, 30%. It's really quite amazing. So we taught that quite a bit in Africa. It's just to get into the habit of not using very much water, but actually washing your hands. And then they would go home and talk to their parents about it too. So really quite interesting. We have worked and still do work in Cambodia. This is a sand filter or bio sand filter. It's a large cement ring, and inside is sand, and the water passes through the sand. And again, I won't go into all the details, but by the time it comes out, the water is quite clean. And that means this lady in this particular house, she was getting water from the river, which was very contaminated, but she could put a bucket of water through this sand filter and the water would be quite clean. She could, this filter could actually clean 9 buckets of water every day. And that was more than enough for her needs. So simple, very simple, probably costing no more than about $5 American, I think, and yet very effective. We have worked and still do work in Nepal. This is their version of a sand filter. They're using 2 black containers that we use for storing food, and they fill them with sand and then pass the water through one and then through the second and then into a bucket. Again, really effective for cleaning water and making the water safe. We've also worked in Togo. This is where we're making a small tank, a small catchment tank. And this one was a bit of a surprise. It came in useful for something else. Can you guess what's happening here?
Baptism.
Yes, it's a baptism using this tank. It was actually, this was before we started using it for drinking water, but it came in useful at the time. We've worked in Samoa in the Pacific, and here is a group of people that I helped to train to build these water pumps. You see the water pumps? Each group built one of these hand water pumps, and they had a competition to see who could squirt their pump the furthest. It was really kind of fun. They also built a very large water tank. This is actually the YWAM base in Samoa, which have actually begun to use many community technology techniques. And this is putting the lid on a very large water tank that they built, taking rain off the roof. Again, it's water catchment. This is the end of that project. They finally got the tank on the lid on the tank, and they're very proud of themselves for doing it. So they now have, I think they told me, 6 water tanks on the base, gathering water, and so that's their water supply now. They don't need water from outside. I work these days in one place in Eastern Europe, in a small country called Kosovo. It's in Eastern Europe. It's close to Albania and Serbia. It's a very young country. It's only, I think, 10 years old now, a little bit more than 10 years old. And they have very serious water problems. It's a beautiful country, beautiful, but their wells are often quite contaminated. This is a water well that they use for drinking, and the water is very badly contaminated. And so we have worked in villages in Kosovo to teach them how to make good wells like this. So we don't do the work, they do the work, but we give them a little bit of an idea of how they might do things, and then they do the design and they build the water wells like this. And then they put a pump inside the well and they pump the water into the house. We've done over 200, I think 230 of these family wells around the country. And it's been a very successful project. We're still doing it, actually. And here's another part of the story in Kosovo. This is a school, but the school is lacking good water. There is one well here on the outside of the school, but the well is very, very contaminated. And if children drink this water from the well, they end up very sick and ending up in the hospital. So they had no really good water in the school. And this is the exit to the toilets. And I have no idea where that goes. I mean, it comes out of the toilet. The toilets are in here. And I don't know where the pipe goes, to be honest, if it goes anywhere at all. Not a good situation. So we helped them to install a water purification system. And again, I don't need to go into the technical side of this, but in the end, they had water in the school for the very first time. They'd never had water before in the school. It was very fulfilling. And here's all the teachers, and they were giving a thank you celebration for us for bringing and helping to bring water into the school. But here's the amazing thing. This man here is one of the teachers. And this is what he said. This is a 95% Muslim country. There is no way that you can bring a conventional missionary into this country, Christian missionary. They would not be accepted at all. But he said this. He made a little speech while we were drinking our Coca-Colas here. He said this. He said, our village has always been the forgotten village. He said, the government has forgotten us. The municipality has forgotten us. We believed that even God had forgotten us. But he said, now we have water. And he said, that changes everything. I know now that God has not forgotten us. He cares. And that was so inspiring for us to realize that through water, he got a better idea of the nature and character of God. It's on a journey towards understanding who God really is. Just a wonderful thing. Very often when I go into the villages there, they will invite me in for coffee into the houses, and they often say to me, come into the house, have a cup of coffee. We want to talk about God. It's they know that we are Christian believers, and they also want to talk a little bit about who God is, who he really is. It's really amazing. So one day I was just driving out of one of the villages, and these four kids were just so beautiful. They were standing there waving goodbye. And behind them, look at this, look at the state of the river. Such a contrast, their happy smiles and so much garbage and contamination in the river. And I thought, what they can do to change things is significant. You know, they themselves in the village, they can make a change, and they make a good future for these children. It's my thought. Anyway, that's sort of the Water for Life story, and it's simply one expression to show to you what some of these projects can do. When you go to serve, we don't go, we couldn't go in many of these places, as you know. You could not go with strong evangelism because that wouldn't be acceptable. But to go and serve and to bring kingdom values is acceptable, and it opens doors wherever you go. So let's go back to the community technology again. So I will just make a switch here. I'm going to stop the share for a second. and then go find another PowerPoint. Just a second. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, let me just think this big. There we go. So again, just to remind you, this is what we're talking about, is bringing justice and peace, bringing kingdom values through science and technology. Let me just let's just think a little bit about how this might work out. Here, this is not exactly community technology, but sort of related. Isn't it true that if you can bring health to people that are sick, that's bringing kingdom values? God wants people to be whole. And I give you just this example. This is truly good news for this young woman. On the left, this is a woman in a village, and I can't remember which country in Africa it was, but as you can see, she has a growth in her head. It's not cancer, but it's some kind of a growth within her head. And look at what it's done. It's really distorted her face completely. As a result, she was shunned in the village. She was not even allowed to go out to be in the village because they were afraid that it might scare the children. And so she was confined to a house, not allowed to go anywhere. There was a medical team that came, and they were able to do surgery to remove the growth here. And would you believe it? This is the same young woman. What a difference it makes. Now she's attractive. She's able to get married. Her life has been completely changed around. To me, that's kingdom values again. That is the difference between a life of shame and a beautiful life of joy, I think. So again, that's an expression of, you might say, technology, really, surgical technique that results in joy and wholeness that wasn't there before. And here's another expression of that. Each of these is a way in which people can be served and benefited. This one is a dental chair. This is a friend of mine in Florida. He lives in Florida now, but he actually was born and raised in the jungles in Amazon. He knows very well what the needs are in those remote areas. And what he did is, he's an engineer and an inventor by background. He invented this dental chair. This is a chair to do dentistry. You can see here the drill. And actually, he also has a small solar panel to drive the drill. And the fascinating thing about this dental chair is this: you can actually fold it up and put it on your back and carry it into the jungle. And so it's a remarkable unit, actually. He tells me that he doesn't have dentists come into the jungle. And that's been our model in the past, is to have dentists come for a week or 2 weeks into the jungle and do many, many dental procedures. No, he doesn't do that. What he does is he has people in the jungle, the people themselves are trained to do the work. This goes back to what I was talking about before, that, you know, people are amazingly creative. And just because they're in the jungle doesn't mean to say they're not intelligent, that they can't learn things, they can't have a skill. So what he does is to help train people in the jungle how to do this work, how to do drilling and filling and looking after teeth. You may think, is this really that important? Actually, if you've ever had a toothache, you know how painful that can be. And you know what a difference it can make when a dentist is able to take care of that. So again, this is a piece of technology. Actually, he told me, his name is Steve. Steve told me, he said, in many ways, I prefer to have one of my friends in the jungle do my work, do the work on my teeth. He said they do such wonderful, wonderful work. And I just am so impressed by that. So this is, again, part of our story here, bringing help and health and wholeness to people who otherwise would never have that opportunity, and to do it through some simple technology. I think this is quite remarkable. So here's another part of that story when you think about it. Cell phones or mobile phones are like everywhere now. It's so interesting in the most primitive of places. Look at this, for instance. Still, people have a phone. It's not a fancy phone, it's not a smartphone, but it's a phone. And it's able to do texting and it's able to do conversation. And really, that's what phones are supposed to do, more or less. So what's the impact of this? Think about this for a moment in terms of the difference cell phones make. I used to do projects in the jungle exactly, but remote areas in Indonesia. And when I went in, I knew that nobody would be able to hear from me for 2 weeks. I would be completely cut off. And interestingly enough, that's changed quite a bit now. If I go into the jungle, into those areas now in Indonesia, almost everybody has a cell phone. And if I want to call a meeting, it's very easy. I just text on somebody's phone to everybody, and we can get everybody together in a particular place. So that's an example of how things have changed. And as you know, because of that, there are ways to bring scriptures to people on little cards that go into the phone, enable them to read the scriptures. There was another very interesting example of how powerful this is in people's lives. This is a story from Central America. This is a village that used to grow corn, and once a week they would gather the corn and bring the corn into the nearest town. And then there would be a dealer there who would then buy the corn and give them the money. Now, the dealers were not being very honest with these people. They were giving them a very, very low price for the corn. But what happened was in the village, the villagers began to get phones. And while they were waiting for the bus to go into town, they would look on their phones to find out what the price was, the world price for corn. So when they came into the town and they wanted to sell their corn to the dealer, the dealer would say, I'll give you this price. And they would say, no, no, no. The world price is this. It's right here on my phone. As a result, the dealer had to almost double the amount of money that they were giving to the village people, which meant that the village itself became more prosperous and the people had enough to eat and so on. So isn't that interesting? That's, again, another use for a piece of technology that results in bringing kingdom values where there weren't kingdom values before. It's really very, very interesting. Now, we talked about the jet plane and how, Lorne used to say the jet plane was invented for missions. Well, there are some ideas about this. I want you to see this. This is really fascinating. The same man that produced the dental chair also designed this. You can see what it is. It's a car, but it's made of metal pieces. It can be unassembled. You see the engine on the back here. You can unassemble it. 3 people can carry this car anywhere. That means that it can be taken into the jungle and it can be put together and then it can be used. But there's a lot more to it than that. This is the big surprise.
Wow.
How about that? It's actually a flying car. And that motor on the back is also a propeller, like an airplane propeller. And it's a parasail. Now, this is amazing because this does not require a long runway like a plane would. And we know there's many, many missionary pilots and missionary planes. That's not bad at all. But this has an advantage in the sense that it can take off from almost anywhere. It only needs a short strip of a path to be able to take off. If you have a medical emergency, they strap the stretcher to the side of this thing and you take off, as a patient strapped to the side of this thing. I thought to myself, I think if I was sick, I might have a heart attack just by being on something like that. It's so risky. And I also asked them, I said, do you always make it? And they said, no, not always. And I said, oh, how often do you make it? And they said, well, maybe 80% of the time. And I said, well, what happens, the other 20%? And they said, well, we usually end up in a tree somewhere. Yeah. And we have to kind of pull ourselves out of the tree. But, here's the reality of it. This is appropriate for the situation. And for a person that's very sick, if you don't get to the hospital, you die. So it's worth taking the risk, isn't it, to get there? Even if it's an 80% chance, that's not bad. It's better that than just staying in the village and actually dying. That's 100% chance that you will die. So again, this is wonderful creativity to be able to express an answer for a problem, but to do it in a way that's appropriate. This is my message for you, and you understand it. I know many of you, more than I do, probably. That is the idea of using technology that's appropriate and will work. It's workable for the situation. So here we go. That's the flying car. And here's an interesting thing. And this is a friend of mine who used to teach a course like you're in. And he left that. He's Swiss. And he formed an organization called, I think it's called Swiss Ability now, to produce artificial limbs for people that have lost limbs, sometimes because of mines. In countries where the ground has been mined, often children step on the mines and they will lose a limb or two. And so he has formed a company to manufacture simple limbs that can then give the person an opportunity to walk again. I don't know if we can try a video, but Seema, do you think it's possible, or is it really?
It is possible we can play.
Okay, I can try it. I
Yes,
have a little bit video, and we could try. I, we'll see if we can make it work.
yes, let's try.
Okay, let me see what we can do. Let me find the video and see if we can make it work.
And Derek, actually, if you start sharing, there will be an option on the screen that share with audio. So please do.
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you for saying that. It should be share sound. Let me see if I can find the video. Let me see. I will have to do a little bit of work here, so just give me a moment here.
Yeah, sure.
Let me just put this away for a second and then see if I can find. Okay. Let's see, here it is. Now I have to get the sound up, so just hang on a second and start sharing again. So we'll share screen. And we will share with audio. And here we go. This is the. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so now I'll run the video now. Let me explain. This is in Africa, and this is two gentlemen who had lost limbs. One has lost two limbs, and the other one has lost one limb. And this friend of mine has been designing these very, very simple replacement limbs for people that have lost them. You've got to understand how radical this is for these young men. Think about it for a moment. Before, they were in wheelchairs, they had sticks to assist them, and now just look at this. This is amazing. We don't need the sound, so I just have switched the sound off for a moment.
Okay.
But can you see here how before they could not do anything like this, but now look at this. They're actually walking and running together. It's pretty remarkable. It's rather slow, and I can see, and that's part of our challenge with videos is the bandwidth is not very good, but I hope you can at least see very clearly what this means. These individuals have a new life as a result of this technique. I'm sorry it's so jerky like this. I wish it were running smoothly. But let me just, here we go.
لوكا جكة سريعة لوكا براهم جكة سريعة هاي سريعة الرجعة حمزة. بوكس ما في؟ بوكس ما في؟ معانا 20 ثانية يلا. بوكس 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 مع حمزة طوالي بكزوا مع بعض. هاي لا ما معك زمن، ما معك زمن تقلع. معك 15 ثانية. يلا اوكي اجلعوا. يلا معك 10 ثواني. 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 10 ثواني 3 بس.
Could you see that?
Yes.
Good. It's pretty remarkable, I think. I mean, imagine that's a completely new life for those people. I'm just amazed. I sometimes have no words for things like this because of the freedom that it gives to people, whereas before they had inability to be able to do anything at all. I think it's just amazing to me. So let me go back here to where we were. We go. So yes, the name of the company is Swiss Ability. And now that company, which is based in Switzerland, obviously, with a man who's running it that used to run the courses like your course. And they have won several awards in Switzerland for the work that they do. I think it's really remarkable. There's some other things here. I'm bouncing around all these possibilities because, and they're not all of them, but there's some of the possibilities, okay? And here's language. We know that in YWAM, this has become a very important thing that we've been working on now, is the idea of bringing the gospel through the scriptures in every language in the world. And I want to just show you how different language, Bible translation is now from what it used to be. It used to be that somebody like this man here would spend maybe 5 or even 10 years in a community learning a language so that it could be so the Bible could be put in that language. Not an easy thing for somebody from the outside. Things have changed a lot now. Now, local people themselves can actually put their language down in a computer. So they can actually work through a computer program, and they can actually put the language together. And it takes a very, very short amount of time. There are a lot of different techniques here, but things are very, very different from what they used to be. And it's because of computer software, artificial intelligence, and so on that's available now that really speeds up this process. I was just reading recently, I wish I could show you a video about this, but it's a group. It's not a Christian group, but it's called No Language Left Behind. No Language Left Behind. And they are using artificial intelligence to be able to do, to bring languages to the point where you can translate easily from one language to another. And I think there's a major breakthrough possible there in terms of Bible translation, because it means that the artificial intelligence can learn the language very quickly, And then you can translate anything from any language really that's known into another language. So it's a new day, and this whole process is going to be a lot faster than it was. Here's another part of what's being done, and we in YWAM, we have 3 approaches that I know of to how to do agriculture effectively. And again, you will know probably a lot more about this than I do. I'm just helping us to visit some of these possibilities and think about what a difference they make. This is the 3 ways that we have at the moment to develop agriculture are permaculture, farming God's way, and the Korean natural farm technique. Farming God's way is very common. Obviously, it was invented and developed in Africa and is quite commonly known among our YWAM families. This one, Korean natural farm, is also known in many areas as well. And then the permaculture is that we do have some people that are actually experienced and trained in permaculture too. So here is Korean natural farm technique. What is involved? Again, I don't want to go into all the technicalities here, but what it's doing is to encourage the growth of microorganisms in the soil, and those microorganisms help to provide nutrients to the plants in the soil. It's a key to the whole process is the health of the micronutrients in the soil. So this is sort of an example of Korean natural farming, and it shows actually a great deal of very good growth of plants because the microorganisms have been encouraged and increased in the soil. It's a method, just I think like farming God's way, of no-till, no digging up the ground, but instead leaving the ground, because that top layer of the ground actually has a lot of the microorganisms in that help to benefit the plants. So you can grow amazingly big vegetables this way using the Korean natural farming method. And here's a part of the story too, is that you can actually use this technique. What you're doing here is laying down a layer of rice husks or grass, hay, and different things like this. And you encourage the microorganisms to grow in that material. And then the pigs can live on top of that. It could be pigs, could be chickens. I don't think I have the chickens here, but this layer here is about, I would say, probably 100 centimeters, a little bit more than that. And that layer is never really needs to be replaced. So the droppings from the waste from the pigs just goes down into that layer. It gets processed by all the microorganisms in the layer. And as a result, you never have to clean this. You don't have to clean it out. You don't have to, there's no smell. And you, at the end, if you do clean it out, you have an amazingly fertile soil that you can use elsewhere. We have here in Kona, in Hawaii, we have an experimental farm, and we are actually just building some new pig places. We had 2, now we will have 4. And that's exactly what we're doing right now, is we're actually producing this layer. We worked on it for almost 3 weeks, I think. And then that layer goes down, and then the pigs will go on top. It's a very effective way to grow pigs and to produce fertilizer as well. Very, very good. We're at a point, I think, now where we should probably take a break. And I will come back to some of these. And then I want to talk a little bit. There are so many examples of the use of community technology, I know, and I can only give a few, but I hope, and you yourself will know of many more than I am expressing here, I know. And I only wish that we could be together and I could hear from you and you could share some of your experiences too with some things like this. But anyway, we'll do what we can, and we'll see what this may just give you some ideas and thoughts for what you might do yourself. Okay, here's another, to me, a very significant little piece of community technology. As you know this very well, in many, many parts of the world, this is the way that women cook. And often that's not outside, but inside as well. It's quite common. And this is a typical stove that you find everywhere like this. But there are some challenges with this, and the main challenge is the health of the women, particularly if they're doing this indoors. The smoke that comes from the fire here is really not good for them. There are many, many people that have lung problems, and I've met quite a few women who have that, or eye problems from the irritation of the smoke. So this is not a good way. And on top of that, of course, you're using wood very often, wood, and that's not an easy thing to replace. So there are some interesting ways to do this, to do cooking as an alternative. This is a drum, an oil drum, that's been thoroughly cleaned. And then on the top here is a chimney. And in here you put wood again, but it's a lot more efficient than most cooking stoves. On the top here, there are several places where you can put pots and heat the food. So, and the good thing about this is no smoke to affect the women because the smoke goes up here, up the chimney. It's a much more efficient way of doing things. And there are so many different designs like these. These are called rocket stoves, I should say. And they're, in this particular one, it's simply made of 4 bricks. They can be put together in such a way like this that they can form a stove. It's really very interesting that the wood goes in here and the draft of the air goes up and through here and heats the container on the top. So these are very simple designs, and they are a good alternative to the open fires or the stoves that exist elsewhere. And then there is this, I think this is a bit extreme, but these are cardboard lined with silver, and they are shaped in such a way, they're made concave, so that they will concentrate the sun's rays. So if you put a container in the middle, then the rays of the sun will heat the container. So you can have a party if you like. This is, everybody's got one. And this would be a picnic, I guess, which is fine. But from my understanding, it's very slow cooking. And also, of course, if the sun's not out, then it's not going to work very well. But it's an option, it's a thought. Now, here's another interesting one, that is solar lamps. I won't show you a video here, we don't really have time, but there are lamps that you can get that they have small photoelectric, almost like not exactly, but like a photo panel, and they will take in light during the day and charge up a battery so that you have a lamp that you can use at night. And we actually have a young man who was part of YWAM from Singapore, And after an outreach that he did, a YWAM outreach, he saw the need for these lamps because he could see first that right now people are using kerosene lamps, and those are dangerous for children because they can easily be tipped over and burn a child. And on top of that, also, so that's part of the problem. And to replace it with one of these solar lamps is a significant, because it means that they can easily read at night and be able to study and so on. So that's a wonderful possibility. I think that many of you will know about biogas. This to me is one of the most remarkable possibilities that's very appropriate and everybody benefits. I can explain it to you. Most of you will know this. I know what it is. You probably know a lot more about it than I do, but around the world now, people are using biogas. What they're doing is they have a container like this, sometimes underground, sometimes above ground, doesn't really matter. And what goes in there is human waste, animal waste, and kitchen waste. They all go into this container. And there is fermentation that occurs in there. It generates methane gas and also fertilizer. So what comes out of this is methane gas, and you can see it here. It's coming into the house. That can be used for cooking. And then the fertilizer can be taken out, and that can be used for crops. It can actually improve, obviously, improve growth. So you've got a stove and you've got the fertilizer used for growth. So in every way, it's positive. It means that human waste can be taken care of, and animal waste and kitchen waste. It can be used, and then the products that come out of it are incredibly useful. So this is biogas. It's what we would call a win-win situation. Everybody wins by using it. And this is becoming common around the world now. The Samoa base has 3 of these units. Let me see. This is actually the YWAM Samoa base making one of those fermentation vessels. They're made, this one happens to be underground. And so they're building it, and then it will be sealed. This is the toilets for the base, the women's toilet and the men's toilet. And those go into the pig waste also. They go into these. These are the actual fermentation tanks buried. So they're not taking up space, and they're very, very powerful in terms of producing gas and fertilizer as well. And I can't show you this video easily, but you can actually get units now they're really dynamos. They will use the methane gas to generate electricity. And the YWAM Samoa base is just beginning to use that now. They have a unit and they're experimenting with it that will actually generate electricity for the base. So there's just a lot of possibilities. This really is an amazing technique. There are some other things here that you may have seen. I'm sure you've seen some of these, but this is a very interesting thing. It was actually perfected by a man in the Philippines. He realized that many of the shanties, the shacks that people were living in, had no windows and no light. And so he actually realized that you could take a bottle, a plastic bottle. It has to be clear, not colored, and you can fill it with liquid water, and then probably add a little bit of chlorine in there so that nothing grows in there. And if that is put into the roof, it catches the sun's rays and then reflects them into the room. So it's a sort of a cheap way to have a light. Of course, it only works during the day when the sun is up. But that's what it looks like. It looks like an embedded plastic bottle, and this is what it looks like on the inside. This is the man that invented them in the Philippines. Like I say, they don't work in the evening, but during the day, they do provide light into dark shanties that otherwise wouldn't have any light at all. And then I explained to you about this. Remember, Muhammad Bar Abba and his invention of this zir, or pot in pot, with the inner vessel and the outer vessel and the sand in between. And this is what it looks like when it's working. Works very, very well. And I got a little quiz for you here. I discovered this in Indonesia. I was driving in Indonesia. Actually, I've been working with Rus Alit, and I saw this in a field. This is in a rice field. This is rice growing, and there are terraces. I don't think I have a picture of that. No, I don't. But there were terraces, and this was connecting between one terrace and the next. And if you look at it, I wonder, can you guess what it is? Let me just explain here. Water is coming from an upper terrace. There's an upper terrace here. Water is coming here. It's going into this bamboo pipe. And then this bamboo pipe is moving. I wonder if you can guess what this is. Think about it.
Is it for checking the water level on the rice field?
Yes, not just the water level. What happens is it fills up here. And when it fills up, what happens?
It tilts the other way.
It tilts. So it drops down. See, it can swing here. So this tilts down and this tilts up. And what it does, when it does that, it empties the water out from this part here, and the thing bounces back up again and starts filling up. So it's going to fill up with water, and when it's filled, it will come down. The water will spill out, and then it will come back up again. So continuously, this is going to be going down and up, down and up. So what is it? What's it for, do you think? Anybody got any ideas? Well, I'll tell you what it actually is. It is a flow meter. It's measuring the rate at which the water is coming down here. The faster the water is coming down, the faster this will go up and down, up and down, up and down. The slower the water, the slower this will go up, down, and up, down, and up. So if you have these all over the rice fields, a farmer can look and he can see visually how much water is flowing from one level to the next. And he can then adjust it so that it's even for the growing of rice. Very, very simple device. And apparently, I asked the people in Indonesia, how long have these been used? And they said probably as much as 1,000 years. 1,000 years people had this invention. So simple and so effective. I was just really impressed by that. Let me just say this, that sometimes things don't have as good a result as you would like. Many of you will have seen these. These are called life straws. And the idea is that you can suck water up and the water will be clean as you suck it up. Sounds like a good idea, but it doesn't, many people don't want to use it. Children like to have fun with it, but adults do not like to bend down and suck up water from a puddle or a pond. It just is very undignified. And so it's a good idea, but it doesn't work as well as you would like, these units, the life straw. And then here's another idea that somebody had, and that was, why not have children have a play ring here that they can turn around, and in the process that can be connected to a pump water up into this storage container at the top. It's called a play pump. And it seemed like a good idea. But you know what? Children got tired of it very quickly. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do this all the time. And so it doesn't work so well. You can't force kids to use it. If they don't want to use it, they won't use it. They get tired of it. And then what's going to happen here? How does the water get up into the tank? So sometimes ideas, like this, that seem obvious and seem that they would work, sometimes there are unintended results. They don't always work as well as you would like. So here's a play pump. Here, see the play thing, the ring here that spins around like a child. Many children like this, but they don't do it all the time, and they don't always want to do it, and they get tired of it in the end. And this is another one of those things that, again, it's a good idea. This is to sterilize water. The idea is that you take empty plastic bottles and you fill them with water, and then you put them on the roof, and they're left there for up to 6 hours. And when you do that, it sterilizes the water. The ultraviolet light from the sun and the slight warming results in killing any bacteria that might be in there. Now, it's very interesting. It certainly works. Children will often take one of these to school in the morning and stick it up on the roof, and then at the end of the day, they'll bring it home. But unintended consequence. In many villages, people won't do this. They will not do it. And the reason is very simple. If they put this up on the roof, it's a way of saying, we are poor. We cannot afford to get water from the store. We cannot afford to get water pumped in. And so we have to do this. So people don't want to do it because they're ashamed. It's very interesting. And you can't, there's no way to cover it up. You can't conceal it because it has to be out in the open. So what they say is, if we see someone with these bottles on their roof, that means they're poor and they can't afford water. It's a shame thing. So sometimes these techniques have consequences you wouldn't have expected. The idea is good, simple, but may not always work, may not always be adopted. One of the last things I wanted to look at here was the moringa plant. I think some of you will know this plant. It has different names in different places. I think there's probably 20 or 30 different names for this tree. The botanical name is moringa. It grows to be about 10 meters high, has these leaves like this. For me, I first came across it because of treating water. It's very interesting because if you take the seeds of the moringa, you see the seeds here that are in the pods, and you crush those up, and then you put them into dirty water, and you leave it for about 20 minutes, it will clarify the water like this. This really is actually water that's been treated. So it's a material that comes out of the seeds. You drop it into the water, and it pulls all of the impurities out of the water. It's not 100%, but it does improve the water quite a bit. But that's only part of the story of this tree. It's really quite remarkable. Again, many of you will know this and probably know this a little bit more than I do, but this is the moringa plant, and it's quite remarkable. It's big, it grows very fast, and it's found all over the world. it's not only found all over the world, it's also has amazing uses. I don't know if I can show this to you exactly, but let's see if we can make this work. Let's see. Here we go. This shows some of the uses for this plant, for this tree. The roots, the leaves, and the seeds. It has an amazing number of uses. It has uses that include medical uses. This is pretty amazing when you look down this list. It seems like it's good for almost anything and everything. I'm not sure that it works for everything, but certainly it helps in many, many cases. I often look at this one, pregnancy, and I think, oh, does it make you pregnant or stop you getting pregnant? Or what? I don't know. Anyway, an amazing plant and amazing things that it can be used for. The leaves are incredibly nutritious. They have lots of vitamin C, vitamin A, calcium, potassium, and protein. They're very high in protein, would you believe it? It's like having, as it says here, like a multivitamin on your doorstep. And the interesting thing is it grows the best actually in areas of the world that mostly would need it. That's what's so remarkable about it. So here's malnutrition. You can see where there are malnourished areas. And here is where moringa grows. Isn't that interesting? So you find this plant in the places where it's needed the most. It's just a matter of identifying it and then growing it and then using it. And it's possible then to help. It helps both animals and human beings. So it was tested in Senegal, and they found that if they were given the leaves of moringa, the children had improved health and better weight, and pregnant women had less anemia and had babies with higher birth weights. Pretty amazing. So they found that with cows in particular, if they fed them moringa plants, they increased their weight gain up to 30% and increased the milk production by anywhere from 43 to 65%. So this is an amazing plant and the things that it can do. So I love this. It's God's gift, is this moringa plant. It was so interesting. I was in Samoa a few years back at the base, at the YWAM base. And interestingly enough, I talked to them about moringa, and they said, no, we don't have that. At least we don't know what it is. So an older lady on the base, she was in her 60s, she said to me, wait a minute, I think I've seen that plant. Show me a picture again. So I showed her the picture of the plant, and she said, I've seen that. I'm pretty sure that we have it on this island in Samoa. So we found a truck. We all jumped into the truck, including the lady, and then we toured around the island watching. And then there was one point we reached. There was a house and there was a tree. And she said, look, that's the tree. And it actually was. It was moringa. And here it was growing in somebody's front yard, and nobody knew what it was. So we went in and talked to the owner of the house, and they gave us some cuttings to take back to the base. And now the base has a lot of moringa growing, and they use it for salads. The green leaves are quite spicy tasting and quite good for a salad. You can also, the other thing that happens, I think, in many, many places, as you will probably know, is you dry the leaves and then you crush them up and you make a powder that you can then put into milk or into food and increase the nutritional value. So moringa is an amazing plant and has so many different uses. Pretty remarkable. So that's the moringa story. I wanted just to tell you at the end of all of this that in the University of the Nations in YWAM, we have these 4 areas that we work in community technology. This is mainly within the College of Science and Technology, but also many bases have walked down these roads. So we have these 4 areas. It's pretty easy to see. Food, as in agriculture, we look at farming and nutrition and food security, energy, and that this is actually becoming quite developed quite well. Wind energy, solar energy, these kinds of things, and people are experimenting with ways to use to generate energy. Water, obviously my field, water, sanitation, and hygiene education. And then last of all, shelter, building appropriate buildings using materials that are local. So these are 4 areas that YWAM is looking at, and we are hoping to we are forming a network of people who are working in these areas. So we want this network to actually help people to be able to share their experiences together and learn. So if people need some kind of technique or they have a particular problem they're trying to solve, we are trying to develop a network of people across YWAM. There must be hundreds of people that are doing projects like this, and it would be so good if we could have them meet together. We're hoping, for instance, there's YWAM Together coming up in September, I think it is, in the Philippines. We hope to be able to help people to get together, but it's really not that they have to be together physically. We're hoping to have a website and a forum where people can go and get advice and help. And it may go beyond YWAM. It may be not just YWAM, but other people too. So that's something that we're working on right now. So coming to the end here, I want just to remind you of these 3 areas that we've talked about creation and the revelation of God. We talked about incarnation, people, and how people work in science or what they do. And then last of all, application, community technology that can solve problems and bring the kingdom into very many people's lives. I want to end up today with a little bit of sort of a Bible study. I hope you will find this useful. I need to just change to a different PowerPoint for a second, if you can just give me a moment. It's something to think about here. Let's see here. It's a question. What does your gospel look like? This is something I began to work on just a few years back, after I began to realize that the gospel is not just words. And I began to find interesting ways of looking at that from the scriptures. And I thought this might be a way to end today. Look at some of these scriptures. This is Luke chapter 4. This is Jesus speaking, quoting from the Old Testament. Look at the words that are in this scripture. Luke 4, verses 18 through 19. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because, remember, Jesus said, I am fulfilling this. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. There is some words in there, but there's also some action, and there's also some miracles going on at the same time. And I realized, and I think you may, I don't know if you were else, I don't think I was the one that invented this, but that the gospel has three aspects to it. One is the word itself. Another is action. And then the last is miracles or signs. So we have word, deed, and sign. And that scripture has all three elements of that: preaching, releasing the oppressed, and proclaiming freedom. Word, deed, sign. And this is what's called the integral gospel or integral mission. That is, our mission is not just about preaching. Look at this, Matthew 9, verses 32 through 38. You see what was going on here? Jesus went through all the towns of villages teaching in their synagogues and preaching, but also healing, and he had compassion on people. So if you think about this again, this is the same thing. It's the word, it's the deed, and it's the signs. Healing, miraculous healings. So again, we have the three things, three elements here of integral mission: the word, the deed, and the sign. And it seems to me that this is really what our missionary work should involve. It should involve all three of these in some way or another. We shouldn't just have the word without action and supernatural. We don't want to have deeds without the word or without the supernatural. We don't want to have the supernatural without the words and the deeds that come along with it. So this is a manifesto that that was put together a few years ago. Jesus not only proclaimed the kingdom of God, but he also demonstrated its arrival by works of mercy and power. Do you see it? Proclaiming, mercy, power. Word, deed, miracles. So I think that we should work towards where, when we bring the gospel, we bring the full gospel, the whole gospel, which includes both words and deeds and signs. I thought it was rather interesting. I stumbled on this just when I was studying in the Old Testament. I noticed what the Ark of the Covenant contained. Inside the ark, first of all, there were tablets of stone, God's word. Secondly, there was the manna in a jar, God's provision. And then last of all, there was Aaron's rod that miraculously budded. Isn't that interesting? In the Ark of the Covenant, word, deed, and sign. Within the to remind the children of Israel about the full story, the full picture of who God is. And then finally, just to remind us of a scripture here in the New Testament, Paul, Thessalonians, for we know that he has chosen you, and look at this, because our gospel came to you not simply with words, but also with power and with the Holy Spirit and deep conviction. You know how we lived among you for your sake. So you've got the words, you've got the signs, and you've got the deeds as well. We need all three. We need all of those to be manifested at the same time. And that, to me, is what the gospel ought to be. And that's where community technology fits in, because community technology is an expression, it's an action, it's a service towards people, and it's part of the whole story. I have lost count of the times that when I've done water projects where we go and we just serve, and then people start asking, why are you doing this? Why would you care about us? And I love it when it gets to that point. I'm not forcing anything on people, but they're asking me, why are you here? And I always say to them, well, we're here to serve you. Yeah, but why? They will ask, why would you do that? And I say, well, because we love you. And they would say, well, why would you love us? You don't know us. And my answer to that is, well, I know that God loves me. Because God loves me, I love you. And God loves you too. And I've lost count of the number of conversations I've had like that, where it's a combination of action and words and signs. We've had, and you all know about when miracles occur. It's not always just healing, but sometimes just amazing interventions of God through his Spirit, bringing revelation, bringing amazing meetings together at various points. And it's obviously a divine appointment. So I want to leave you with that today, just to say, don't miss out on part of the gospel. The gospel in its full expression includes community technology. Well, that's sort of the end of our story for today. I wanted to end about this time to give plenty of time for us to process and think and yeah, maybe just flesh out a few things if there's some things that you would like to talk about.